can read between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Don't need that cottage promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Programmed to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed. Disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
So we, eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Tonight is your Thursday edition of Rogue Ways, and I am so excited because sometime recently I hit the 2,000 subscriber mark on YouTube, and who knows how many podcast subscribers I have. It's hard to say because the stats are harder to determine, but I am so happy that we have made it this far. So thank you to all of you who subscribe and share the show when you find the opportunity to do so, and tell people about Rogue Ways. Because this is awesome. I didn't honestly wondered if I would ever get there. And so I guess the next milestone is 3,000. So let's keep pushing it towards that and beyond. I like that it has been a small show so far because it keeps me from being deleted and targeted, I think, even though I do get messed with in many ways. So, there's some benefits to that. But there's also benefit to having more people around who can, like I said, share and comment and add to the discussion and possibly subscribe, and support me monetarily as well, because otherwise I'm doing all of this for free. And it's nice to be able to get value back for the value that I share. So anyway, I wanted to share that milestone with you guys. And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much to all of you who support in whatever way you do. It's very much appreciated. So tonight we're going to talk about the Fallen Ones. What are the Fallen Ones and what's their deal? What are they about? What's their plan and whatnot? And, as usual, I basically gather things synchronistically and I put them all together to present to you. And so that's, of course, how this has gone as well, as I'm drawing threads together, random things pop in and connect with it. So the tale that I weave may be slightly different than the tale you have heard other people weave about the Fallen Ones, but it won't be that different. There's a couple ways to look at things, and we try to look at all of them, right? So let's say what's up to people in the chat. We've got Jeff Green. What's up, Jeff? We got Lacey Mariposa in the house tonight. We got Sue Finelli. We have SJ in RVA. What's up? I don't know if I've seen you around yet, but welcome. It's nice to see you. And of course, we've got the ever talented and attractive, handsome man, the digital apparition. Thank you. I think that I deserve it as well. And soon there are a couple big developments. Pardon me while I itch my eye. There's a couple big developments coming that I am very excited to share with you, and I still just am not to the point where they're like concrete enough for me to share them, but they should be pretty exciting, and so I can't wait to be able to share those things with you, with all of you. So yeah, let's get to talking about the Fallen Ones. I'm going to do this right this time. I'm not going to show you my OBS screen. There we go. I struggle with how big to make my little box down at the corner, but here you go. So as always, I want to show you CoreySharman.com. That's my pen name. That's the name under which I publish my books and have for years and years before I ever did this. So Lindsay Sharman is in fact my real name, or most of it, missing the last name, which is Brown. It's not a secret. It's just a thing. But most people know me by Lindsay Sharman. And so anyway, you can get to CoreySharman.com also through rogueways.org. It is a sort of hub of all of the various things that I do, and there are many of those things. The show is one of them. I also write a lot of poetry. I write articles. I write opinion pieces. I make all kinds of stuff. And this is the site in which you can explore all of it. I am now an affiliate for Phoenix Aurelius. So if you would like to use this portal to get to his products, then it does give me a tiny sliver of kickback. And it also supports the amazing work that he does. If you've seen any of the episodes with Phoenix on Rogueways, you know he's a pretty stellar dude, and his products are amazingly pure, wild-crafted, and other remedies, honestly, that are fantastic. So check him out for sure if you're on a health kick. You can get to my Subscribe Star to hear from here. You can get to some episodes of Rogueways, just the audio versions, the podcast, basically, from here. You can see the works that I've published so far. I get closer every day to dropping the sequel for Sine Curve of Aeons, and that's coming ASAP. For now, you can buy it here in a soft cover or a hardcover right below it from 2 different publishers. You can also get the audiobook on Subscribestar, just, FYI. And Gypsy on the Res is my memoir of a time spent teaching on a Native American reservation, a tiny, tiny little village in the middle of nowhere. It's hilarious, irreverent, and at times touching and profound. And of course, Mutable Realia is my collection of poetry. Sine Curve, really, if you're into, the progression of humanity and the human sort of story and soul through the yugas, and sort of, I don't want to give too much away, but it's a fantastic story. So check out Sine Curve if you haven't yet. I also do tarot readings for people. I like to offer a safe method by which you can contact your highest self, your highest allies in the spirit world, or God, or however you like to think of that energy that we're in touch with. I like to be able to help people get in touch with that through these readings. People who get them agree that they are generally pretty profound and very helpful. You can also shop Rogue here on the shop button, and you can find all kinds of fun stuff. Lately, the thing I've been hyping, besides Rogue gear, which is fun, get the Rogue logo on various things you like, besides the Irreverent merch, which is a couple cool phrases that you can have on fun t-shirts and things that you can wear to try and kind of nudge people closer to awake. But you can also get these Orgonite pendants. They're one-of-a-kind Orgone energy accumulators that channel that energy into your field. You can also hang them in your car from your body or anywhere else you want to put them. They're beautiful pieces of work, and they're incredibly affordable. So go check those out. And of course, I like to point out that I do teach some classes. I offer guidance sessions one-on-one with you, in addition to tarot readings and other things here that you might want to look into if you are looking for that sort of help in your life on a spiritual, metaphysical, even physical, career-wise and personal, interpersonal. Any of those things can come up in readings or in guidance sessions. So it's really what's going to be of service to you. And of course, there are 2 copies of Sine Curve of Aeons left at $10 a copy. That comes with my inscription. That comes mailed to you anywhere in the United States via media mail. It's a pretty amazing deal, honestly. So if you have been wondering whether or not you want to read Vitalis or Sine Curve of Aeons, then now is your time to do it at the cheapest it will ever be. And get some Rogue Way stickers, because they come with it. It's one of the only ways you can get them, honestly. I should probably start selling them. And finally, I already pointed out the Phoenix's Apothecary. So I like to show you guys that you can also support me on Subscribestar. This is the best way to support the show. I don't do subscriptions in general. There's not a paywall. The whole show is available to anyone who might need it. And I hope to keep it that way forever, because I think it is nice to share information and knowledge with people who are searching. And so I really like this way of doing it. And so it helps a lot if you have found any value in Rogue Ways, if you can go and subscribe and support the goal, support the cause, right? We have even $1 subscription level per month, and that is much appreciated. There's a lot of people who subscribe at that level. We've got the $7, the $22, and the $55 level, and they each have different perks. Of course, the $55 level gets you a normally $60 tarot reading for $55 a month, plus access to everything on Subscribestar. Subscribestar has its own tarot reading. Sometimes it has all of my audiobook chapter by chapter as they come out. It'll have the next audiobook chapter by chapter as it comes out. It's a pretty good deal for anybody who's interested. So go check out Subscribestar. And of course, you can catch the podcast on any podcast app. It is everywhere. And here on SoundCloud is its hub for every episode ever made of Rogue Way. So check that out if you're ever interested in the backstory and you want to listen instead of watch. But let's jump into it after we check in with the chat. We've got Dana's in the house. What's up, Dana? Nice to see you here tonight. Tinfoil Hat Man. Been listening to the podcast for a couple months. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you're enjoying it and keep coming back. Spread it around. Tell everyone you know. And Bob Dylan is asking, is this live? Yes, Bob Dylan, it is live. And now you know that it is live. And just so you guys know, pretty much every episode I ever do is live. When I'm interviewing people one-on-one, though, it's pretty hard to check in with the chat. So if you're asking me if it's live when I'm doing a one-on-one, it probably is live. It's really, really rare that I pre-record an episode and release it. It happens, but super rarely. So yeah, most episodes are live. But anyway, it's nice to see you guys here. And I know there's more people watching who haven't checked in yet. So, if you want to say hi, most people are over in YouTube, but do what you like. So the Fallen Ones, you may be familiar, you may already understand what the Fallen Ones are, but this is basically a Christian-oriented idea, although it is echoed in many, traditions and spiritual paths and ancient texts around the world. This same concept, it's just not necessarily called the Fallen Ones in every single place and way. So that phrase kind of indicates a Christian path. And so we're going to be looking at this, a lot of it, from the Christian point of view. And that is not necessarily to say that that is the right way to look at something. This is just a concept that we're exploring together. So the Fallen Ones are basically mentioned in the Bible, and this is the way that they're described. The sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. It sounds kind of like they just picked them and had sex with them. And who knows if it was rapey or not. It's hard to say. But who are the sons of God and who are the daughters of men? Well, the sons of God are angels, depending on your point of view. That's the consensus I tend to go with. And the daughters of men are regular human women. So angels that left heaven to come down to earth to have sex with human women. That's what the Fallen Ones tends to describe. It goes on to say there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. The same became mighty men, which were men of old, men of renown. So you'll see these phrases attributed to the giants produced from the offspring of the fallen angels who had sex with women. They bore giants, and they were called something else, not the Fallen Ones, but they were often called mighty men. They were often called heroes of old. They were also often called men of renown. And if you are interested in Gary Wayne's work, which we'll probably come back to again and again throughout this talk, then you would know that Gary Wayne feels that a lot of the old heroes from a lot of the mythologies that we are taught, a lot of the Greek mythologies and a lot of the other mythologies that come down to us, were actually these children born of fallen angels and women. So when you talk about, like, for example, why can't I think of one? Hercules or who's it? Gilgamesh. These people that you hear about, these are thought to be, especially by Gary Wayne and some other people as well, they're thought to be the offspring, also known as the Nephilim. So the Nephilim were the offspring of the fallen angels mating with women of earth. This is interesting. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. So this is one of the indications we have that Satan is an angel. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present... Oh, why are they repeating it? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. I don't know why those last two are even in here. But anyway, if you're using scripture, this points out, this is biblical scripture, of course. You can't translate it any other way than that the fallen ones are angels. And when you get into the Hebrew word for giants, it's Nephilim, which they say right here is the fallen ones. But again, Gary Wayne points out that that's not actually the etymology that makes sense, and that the Nephilim are specifically the giants that they bore, not the angels who fell. But anyway, that's just the kind of basic biblical view of what the fallen ones are. These are the angels that for whatever reason went against God's wishes and came down and had sex with ladies. It's kind of weird if you think about it, like you were just chilling one day and just some angel, which honestly, if you look at the way the angels are described, it sounds terrifying. They sound terrifying. Seeing an angel should probably like level you and just be like the most terrifying thing that could happen. Whether it's a good angel or bad angel, it seems like it's pretty intense. And so to have that thing want to have sex with you is like really weird and overwhelming. And again, I just wonder like how rapey it was, or whether or not there's some sort of allure or attraction that would make a woman want to have sex with an angel, or maybe they have some sort of power. I mean, I don't know. These are all questions that I have. Excitingly, Gary Wayne is coming back on Rogue Ways to answer these questions from the Christian perspective in September. So I have so many questions. But of the fallen ones, and again, they had these offsprings called the Nephilim. They were the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men before the flood. So this is part of why the flood allegedly happened. This is part of why the flood was, sent to destroy everything, because there were so many Nephilim just covering the earth and they were really awful, it sounds like. And so the flood came to destroy them. Again, some scholars think that the Nephilim are the fallen ones. So I guess it just depends on who you listen to. But the fallen ones tends to normally mean the fallen angels. And then their offspring are not the same, right? An offspring of an angel and a human is much different than an angel, whether he's fallen or not. So I go with Gary Wayne on this one. And I think the fallen ones are the angels and the Nephilim are the giants' offspring. Of course, the human women were just so fair that they just had to take wives from them. It's like, damn, we're sexy, ladies. We make angels fall. It's not a good thing either. So I guess that was all I wanted to take out of here. But it is interesting that the Bible even talks about giants, right? It's interesting the Bible just adds that in, like, yeah, there were giants then. There's not now. Whatever, no big deal. But we know that, there's supposedly the Smithsonian has hidden all kinds of giant skulls, giant bones, and evidence of giants. And why would they hide them? Why couldn't we just know? What's wrong with just knowing that there were giants once? I don't know. I think, honestly, the main reason would be to hide this. Like, they don't want to give any evidence that this story might be true, that there might have actually been beings called angels that actually rebelled and fell from heaven and had sex with ladies. But what do I know? It's one of many possible explanations for why they would hide something like that. All right. I wonder if they think here that giants are not really giants, because some people also think when the Bible is talking about giants that they just mean really tall guys, just really big guys, everyone else was short and they were just tall. And I'm like, nah, they sound like they're pretty friggin' tall. This is weird. In Enoch 1, they were great giants whose height was 3,000 ells. An L is 18 inches. So this would make them 4,500 feet tall, or nearly a mile tall. That's insane. If that had any truth to it, that would be insane. If you're a mile tall, how do you even exist on this planet? It is that flat earth version where it's actually just a much, much much more huge plane or sphere than we ever thought. We're just a tiny pinprick is what we think is the whole world, but there's actually, all whole other vast tracts of territory. If that was true, I could see how a giant could live here, but otherwise I don't understand and still exist. That's just crazy. But hey, maybe that gives some sort of credence to the mud fossil guy. Who knows? Oops. So the sons of heaven are recorded as being angels in all kinds of old documents. So there is some, debate about whether or not the sons of heaven are actually angels or if they're humans or something. But it seems pretty clear based on lots of texts that it's actually angels. But, you can debate literally anything. So that's your basic brief background on the Nephilim. Let's check in with this chat. Say what's up to people. Lori Wintz is here. She's catching it live. Woo! What's up, Lori Wintz? Rogue Cow is back. Nice to see you, Rogue Cow. Mateo is here. What is up? Bob Dylan wants everyone to know that he is interested in hooking up with an alien woman. Just in case. If anyone important is listening, send him an alien woman. I think that's a real risky choice to make, and I hope for your sake that it doesn't happen, but whatever you need to make your life complete. Burning Marls in the house. What's up? We got Chad Clemens. Yo. Yeah, having sex with an interdimensional being just seems tricky. I mean, having sex with humans is already not super safely done for most people, and not, I don't think most people practice like the spiritual energetic side of it. I think they just sort of like mash their genitals together until they come. And I mean, that seems like doing, when you understand it that little, like the base place where you're at, and then you add in interdimensional beings, like, I don't know what you're going to end up doing to yourself, you know? What kind of attachments are you going to create in that way? It sounds bad. Plus, if you're going to give birth to a giant, I mean, God, I don't even want to know how that worked. It probably didn't. Yeah, exactly. Road Cow beat me to it. It's all fun and games until you give birth to a giant. Giant footprint in stone. Let me look at that. Let's see. Giant footprint in stone. Apparently things are moving quite slow today. Giant footprint in stone cannot be accessed. Like, why? Just do it. Okay. Wow. Wow. Is that real, though? I mean, is it just happenstance? This one looks like it could just be happenstance. But who knows? You'd need so much evidence like that. Wow. And why are these all laterally up and down, you know? Horizontal. No. Yeah, horizontal. No. Vertical. Why are these all vertical? I guess they're not all. This one's horizontal. They really do look like footprints. That's pretty convincing. I mean, when it's this soft, though, I mean, you could carve that out like pretty easily, so it's hard to say. Pretty big, though. And then it's like, is it Bigfoot or is it a giant? Are Bigfoots giants? Are Bigfoots the offspring of the fallen ones? And human women? There's a lot of these. Wow. I feel like I've seen a few before, but I'm always of the same thing where I'm like, I have no way of knowing if that was human made and carved or if it's real. I mean, like, this one looks pretty carved. Like, look how perfectly the outline just goes straight down into the foot. You're like, if you're taking an actual step, you would have like sort of weight dispersion that would, I think, make it like less perfect than that, but who knows? And then there's always the pareidolia thing where there's like some of them where it's like, it could be, but it also could just be us being like, that looks like a footprint. But yeah, some of them are pretty compelling. Very interesting. Thank you for that minor rabbit hole. Much appreciated. Way to be skeptical. Yeah, I try. I mean, I don't even try. It's just like my natural state. I don't believe anything. Even if you guys have heard me talking about like the shamanic experiences I've had and stuff, I start by assuming these people are charlatans. But I'm like, I'll just see, you know, what their whole sort of trickery is all about. And then like, they're not. So I start from a place of not believing, and I have to be convinced with evidence to believe. I like Lacey says, men are like, I'm spiritual. And I'm like, demons are spirits too, bro. Be more specific. For real. What's up, Andrew Lockwood in the house? I'll have the mashed genitals with cream gravy. Gross. I know I said it first. I'm sorry. All right, let's move on. So we got the fallen ones are these angels that, left whatever place angels hang out with God. You call it heaven, call it another dimension, and whatever. They left there and they came here because we were so sexy. They needed to have sex with us, and then we made giant babies, and they're called the Nephilim. So it was weird. I found this Heart lyric, and you guys are maybe familiar with this, but I'm like a pop culture idiot, and so I'm not. And so I found Heart has written this song called Fallen Ones. And these are the lyrics. And if you look at this from a point of view of knowing what the fallen ones were, they're the angels that rebelled against God. They purposely went against the natural sort of order in order to possibly rape human women and force them to give birth to giants who then like just decimated the earth because they were giant and horrible. You know, if you read the stories, they're like pretty... They're at the very least, they're super full of themselves and very powerful and don't mind when humans get in the way, you know, they don't really care. at the very least. And at the worst, they're like murderous, warring people or giants who eat people and such terrors. So if you're keeping that in mind, check these lyrics out. Heart says, born on the edge of a borderline in the simmering summer of sweet blue fire. Now you walk on the cold, cold wind, nothing left of your light. The living sun just falls away, leaving only day, day for night. It's interesting. So like born on the edge of a borderline, that might be like the children of the fallen ones. You know, the Nephilim are partway between angels and humans. They're a perfect mix of the two. So they're on this borderline. This sweet blue fire, when you talk about these, and I don't know if I get to it, so I'll just mention it now, but the Gary Wayne's idea is that the Nephilim die, but their spirits are still eternal, but they can't go back to heaven, but they also haven't been judged yet to go to hell, so they wander the earth, and that's what demons are. They're the eternal spirit of the Nephilim, which are the giants born of the fallen ones and women. And so when you talk about demons, you know, you're specifically not talking about the fallen angels. You're talking about the souls of their offspring with humans. And they often are described as smokeless fire. Jinn are described as smokeless fire. It's mentioned other places in the ocean too. Demons are these dark entities, sort of, if I'm getting this straight. And so this sweet blue fire reminded me of that concept of this smokeless fire and these demons. Walking on the cold wind. A lot of times when these entities are in a cold atmosphere around you, nothing left of their light. They sort of gave up their light when they fell. So it's interesting. Again and again, the comrades fall. All of these fallen angels are supposedly, you know, locked in the abyss or whatever. And so maybe it's alluding to that. The tears roll down and the wounded crawl. In this heartless, crazy world, the wounds just burn like fire. Light a light for the fallen ones. Light a light and hold it high. I mean, this is probably just a or something, and I don't know, but it's just interesting to read it in this light of what we know the fallen ones are. And it could have a double meaning too. A lot of texts are really good at double meanings, or triple or more. So it could be both, who knows. But to light a light for the fallen ones, light a light and hold it high, kind of makes me think about Luciferianism and, you know, the light that was stolen and sort of given to humans, which is another analogy for the fallen ones coming down to the world. Your burning star turned to a midnight sun. A midnight sun. We hear midnight sun a lot in connection with this occult worship of the fallen ones and the Nephilim. A lot. There's a lot of it in this Nazi propaganda and literature. There's a lot of it in sort of Luciferianism and Satanism both. So it's interesting that specifically the midnight sun is mentioned. I will stay alive for the fallen ones. Okay. Dancing with the smoke of your devastated flame. Dancing with the smoke. Dancing with the rain. So cold being here again. So I call your name. I call your name. So it sounds like a creepy invocation in a way. And at the very least, a sort of homage to the fallen ones. Which is whatever. If you're into that, then you're into that. And again, maybe not, but I just saw the lyrics and I was like, that's kind of weird. It kind of relates. So I wanted to share with you guys. We have John Jacob in the house. John Jacob says, Zecharia Sitchin studied ancient Mesopotamia and ET Anunnaki. Yes, the Anunnaki would also be the same as the Nephilim, I believe. I'm getting that. A giant offspring. And Zecharia Sitchin, I think, has a couple problems with his interpreting to look into, no matter where you land on the, you know, veracity of his claims or not. It's a really, really interesting interpretation of some of these older texts and what might have been going on. I personally don't believe that there are extraterrestrial entities that came from, you know, outside of Earth to here, but that's just me. That's definitely a possibility of what's going on. Interesting. Rogue Cow points out it could be interpreted as original sin as Eve's pregnancy and the resulting agonizing births, not punishment, but nature. Yeah, if you kind of go away from your nature and that's a sort of sin, you're living outside of nature. Sin means without, right? So you're living outside of nature and you have sex with these interdimensional beings, then like you automatically are going to have a way worse childbirth than ever before. So that's a really interesting point. I like that. Thank you. Prometheus, yes. The Nagas, yes, of course. The Nagas are the serpent beings from below, right? The powerful Nagas. There's also an interpretation of Nagas that Cordisi Tom brought up briefly on his appearance on Rogue Ways a couple episodes back, connecting it to, this is this very powerful energy. The snake sort of has this symbolism of representing all kinds of energies rising within us, like our Kundalini energy, our enlightenment often has a big connection with snake symbolism. And so Nagas being these snake entities or snake beings, he was kind of connecting it to why did they take the power away from that? And maybe, and I hope I'm not butchering his ideas, but I think he was saying like maybe African-American Black people had this connection with the sort of Naga culture, the Naga energy. And that's where, the N-word comes from, but they changed it in order to like debase it and make people never want to say it and kind of desecrate the original meaning and intent and the connection to that power. So that's a really interesting theory and random connection to Nagas. But I don't know enough about Nagas to really speak very much on them or give any opinion, yay or nay, like what they're about. But yeah, they're mostly over in the Asiatic regions. Half snake, half man. Interesting. It's also interesting when you then think about how, we have this sort of reptilian, draconian sort of imagery and symbolism with our sort of overlords and our elite rulers and controllers or whatnot. And you connect that with Nagas as well. But every tradition has sort of some representation of that and a different sort of take on it. I thought this was interesting. Allura's Angels is, I guess, this site. And there's all this stuff about angels, all these different pages that this person has to talk about various aspects of angelic sort of being. But she did this interesting write-up on the fallen ones. And it's not quite from a Christian point of view, although it's very similar and it uses a lot of the same names and a lot of the same, it basically agrees with the storyline. It doesn't talk about them in quite the same way. So she says fallen angels are spiritual beings who used to be of a high vibration from being angelic previously. But they descended to the lower realms for several reasons and several rebellions in which that occurred. So it's not just this one rebellion. It's not that the angels just sort of saw women and they looked hot and they like dropped down and whatever. It's sort of this maybe much more kind way of looking at this. If you don't want to just sort of like be on the side odd and like look at it from that point of view, I think this is sort of the way you would look at it and say like, hey, they're just like angels that did this thing, who knows if it's good or bad, I guess. So this is just kind of that perspective. First rebellion was led by Semjaza, I guess, but they also call him Samael, which is interesting because Samael Ayan Weor is the one of the Gnostic sort of leaders in the modern Gnostic tradition. So it's interesting that he has the same name as this fallen angel, but I wonder if it's just a common name in some area of the world. In fact, I want to look and find out. Samael. Just work. Why does it want to do this to me today? It's just a search. It should be like the fastest thing that happens. Let's try it one more time. Dude, okay. Oh, it's going to pretend to give us a result and then not actually do it. Is Samael a common name? Whoops. Christian baby boy name. I guess it is. So maybe there's absolutely no connection at all. Maybe he's just named Samael. But it's interesting to have a name that's after a fallen angel. Azazel wanted to be human and led the humans into an evolution of spirit. So this is that sort of take that the fallen angel like Prometheus or Lucifer fell to earth and wanted to come to earth to help humans progress And the, mean God was keeping us in whatever state we were in that was not fair. And the angels like sacrificed themselves to come down here and help us. So that's the sort of alternative view of what's happening. In fact, I think it's the more common view, to be honest, especially outside of Christianity. But I think, anyway, who knows? We'd have to do a poll, right? This person says it's not Lucifer, actually, and that there's not any scripts that even say that, and so how can you say that? And then this person goes into their vision that they had, and that's evidence that, Semyaza is actually a great angel that loves our Creator, but this Azazel got to him and made Semyaza believe that he was not subject to human care, which I don't even know what that's supposed to mean, subjected to human care. I mean, the way that it's described in the Bible, humans are loved more than angels, and some of the angels got jealous of that, of us being sort of higher in the hierarchy of God's love, and so they came down to sort of totally screw us over. So this kind of agrees with that in a way, I guess. Not subjected to human care might be meaning that they don't have as much care from God as humans do. I don't know. It's an awkwardly phrased sentence. But then he made humans bow to his needs and his rules. And this is how the Nephilim are usually described, as pretty autocratic and tyrannical rulers. And so it's interesting that this angel is being described in that way. But again, this is this girl's vision that she had. So who knows what is true or not in it, or what sort of sneaky little pieces were added in by who knows who. Talks about realms and subplanes of the realms and all the different spiritual beings on all these different planes, which actually also agrees with a lot of different mystical traditions and Christian traditions doctrine. They started to do walk-ins in the physical bodies of the humans on Earth. That's basically demonic possession or angelic possession, I guess, in this case. So I guess that is part of her view. After this, they decided they'd make a new civilization with humans as their slaves. Like, I don't know how you can get to that point and still have some compassion for them, but I guess whatever you want to do. Starting in the Fertile Crescent Kingdom, so this, goes back to all of the Enki and Gilgamesh and all these sort of tales that we have of these giants. So this person seems to be saying that the angels just came down and became giants by walking into human bodies, but it's just a slightly different take on having sex with women and making, giants. But this was the part that was interesting. One of the angels, Ariel, genetically altered humans for a pure bloodline to try to override the devastation that the Fallens once had made. And then they get into Nibiru and all this. But this idea of genetically altering humans and these pure bloodlines comes up again and again, especially in the occult and esoteric traditions that sort of worship the fallen angels and their Nephilim offspring instead of worshiping, God and the angels that didn't fall. So it's just interesting. It's interesting that you would, whatever, everyone should choose whatever they want. But it's just interesting to me that people would specifically choose the side that rebelled and made giants that were horrifying and caused a bunch of chaos, and think that those were the good dudes. And maybe they were, and maybe I'm missing huge pieces of the story, but I don't know. I think that angels coming down, having sex with women, making giants that ruin everything is not the greatest thing. Personally, that's what I think. I think that was the main parts that I wanted to grab out of this piece. Oh, she goes into saying that Michael and Jesus are the same people. I've never heard that theory, but this person actually does have a lot of knowledge behind what she's saying. She just also mixes it with her own visions and her own, I think, biases towards one side or the other, which who wouldn't? But it's interesting that if she's saying this, I wonder if that's kind of a more common idea than I've known, because I've never heard it. But Michael the Archangel and Jesus, I don't think they're the same being as far as I understand. But it is interesting to say so. Anyway, if you don't believe her, you can click there. She also says that Catholic priests chant and call Lucifer, And that's one of her pieces of logic to say that Lucifer isn't bad. But I mean, I don't know about you, but a lot of Catholic priests are pretty messed up, and seem pretty dark. And so I don't know that them calling Lucifer makes Lucifer good or bad. I think Lucifer should be judged based on Lucifer's actions and, you know, just like anything else. And then she goes into how both Jesus and Lucifer are associated with the morning star and the evening star. And that's something that I want to talk to Gary Wayne about too. Maybe we already touched on it. I always forget why those two things are. Oh, right. I do remember we did touch on it. And his idea was just like Enoch and just like another biblical character. There's a lot of biblical characters that the sort of fallen angel Nephilim side of things tried to, they named them the exact same things in order to confuse people. So there's actually like an Enoch the good and an Enoch the bad. And there would be then this evening star, morning star reference might be specifically to confuse us and make us think that Lucifer and Jesus are the same people. It's an interesting conundrum, and I don't know how you would ever fully decide what you thought or where you stood on that without deep, deep research. And I don't think many people think about it that deeply. So anyway, this person has decided they're the same, one and the same beings. And anyways, she goes into the various rebellions that these poor fallen angels went through and their poor Nephilim offspring had to deal with. And then she talks about how great she is at channeling. So this goes on really far, but we're not going to go into all of that. And so we'll move on to the Angelicopedia. But I'm going to see what you guys are saying. You guys are also having slow searches. I wonder if it's something in the network everywhere, or if it's just us. What's up, Chris Phoenix? Nice to see you here. Lucifer does mean Lightbringer. Chad Clemens says, he says, Lucifer means Lightbringer. I think that is our eye only bringing in information. Interesting interpretation. It like literally is very similar. Interesting. John Jacob said that Fallen One song from Heart starts very loud and discordant and then morphs into a more recognizable riff. That loud, discordant start might be another clue. Then again, no matter what she's talking about, it's or he. I don't know anything about Heart, and I'm very sorry if that pisses people off. But whatever they're talking about is sad, no matter what it is. So I guess loud and discordant would fit either way. Chad said, Lucifer brings light. Light is all that is illuminated by the sun, God's son. It's possible. This is the thing that gets tricky, is all of these things have so many layers of symbolism and meaning, and I often think that they could mean many, many things, and I often think that they count on it being confusing because it's much harder to know the truth when there are so many options of what something can mean. But this general theme of Lucifer falling from heaven, bringing the light, sneaking the flame in to give to humans, and then being like punished and tortured for it is kind of repeated over and over and over again in all sorts of motifs and all sorts of stories and all sorts of mythologies over and over again with different names. And so I do think that there is an occurrence somewhere in the past of something of another realm or dimension coming here to bring us something like fire and light. And I think that fire and light, especially way back at that point in time, was like the first version of technology. And so my understanding of Lucifer is that it is an angel who rebelled and came here to bring us something God didn't want us to have, and that is actually technology and knowledge. But technology and knowledge, I think, in a way that we weren't ready for, and that has actually caused all of the ruin all throughout history. And that's where I'm at right now. That's my best assessment of the situation, knowing what I know about technology and how it's being used, and how ill-prepared we are for it, honestly. So that's where I'm at. But anything is possible. We must take light and discern it and find truth. I mean, that's not a false statement. We should do that. Yeah, I'm with you, Chris. I don't think Michael and Jesus are the same either. They're mentioned as separate beings so many multiple times that, I mean, her main point was that Jesus and Michael's like names mean the same, but they're titles. And so you can have similar titles and still be a totally different person. So it's not a very good argument anyway. But Michael might represent, but see, again, Michael as an archangel is generally this angel that comes in, fighting and kind of destroying the forces of darkness in order to protect the innocent. And Jesus doesn't really fight. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could make the argument that he fights, but realistically, he more comes in to share the sort of truth of the way things are and spread that to as many people as possible, and then also be like a martyr, taking all his sin with him. I mean, they have pretty different stories. So I don't know. Even like symbolically, I feel like they represent pretty different things. Stephanie Martin is here. Nice to see you. Neowise. Yeah, I've been talking about Neowise a bit, and actually Freeman Fly mentioned my idea on his show, so that's pretty cool. But Neowise, the comet that's in the skies right now, is the similar sort of brainwashing, I think, for as Novel Corona. They both have new in their title, and they both refer to your crown or your wisdom or your head and your mind. They're basically saying they want us to have a new mind. And I don't think if they are telling us to have a new mind that it's a good idea, whatever their idea of it is. But so we have this list of fallen angels, and my main reason for pulling this up is we're talking about the fallen ones, right? And I just wanted to look at how many there are. This is crazy. I don't even think this is a complete list, to be honest, because they have Baal, they have Balaam, they don't have Moloch. Moloch's not on here. Why wouldn't Moloch be on here? Isn't Moloch a fallen angel? Maybe Moloch is a demon and I'm just confused. Maybe Balaam Moloch, which is the demon that Phoenix Aurelius's IDF investigation showed was, I shouldn't even say demon, dark entity, which Bill Gates is working most directly with, and the entity that is controlling his behavior. So according to that IDF analysis, that's what's true, which is pretty amazing because you need the exact name in order to do any sort of, suppression magic or anti-spells or whatever against that being. But maybe it's Baal, this fallen angel, Balaam, this fallen angel, if they're not the same one, and Moloch, the demon, all working together with their human counterpart. That would give you sort of like a weird triune. Ugh. Sounds bad to me. But all of these fallen angels, so these are not demons. These are fallen angels. This is how many angels sort of rebelled or fell or whatever. If this is true, I don't know what this list is or if it's right, but this is just what this person says. I honestly defer to Gary Wayne on anything biblical because he has studied so far beyond anybody else ever. And he's very, very critical thinker. And so I would want to know what he thinks about this list. But there's a lot of them. A to Z. And I haven't heard of most of them. Fornius, Flauros, Caim, Botis. I've heard of some like Belial, if I'm saying that right. Lilith, I've heard of. Lucifer, of course. But see how this person, Lucifer was a fallen angel supposedly, but this person is saying it's actually a Babylonian king whose name means the bearer of the light. So there's yet another idea of what Lucifer is. It's just this king, But then again, at the time, kings were likely Nephilim, so it might be a demonic entity at this point if this is true. Let's look it up. Was Lucifer a did it say Babylonian? I'll just say a king. Jeez, why is the search so slow? What did it say? Babylonian, it did. Of course. Oh. See, and the devil and Lucifer are not the same. And Satan and Lucifer are not the same. And there's so much confusion. And then here it says Lucifer is a Latin name for the planet Venus. So it's like literally just Venus. There's just so many different takes on what Lucifer is. Was Satan once a beautiful angel named Lucifer? Marxist Lucifer King? What? Sorry to go down so many random rabbit holes, but I have to know what this... Goytok. Goytok would refer to Goyim, which is anybody who is not Jewish. So this is the non-Jewish talk about Marxist Lucifer King MLK. What is this? It's a video. Okay. I don't know what that is. That's weird. I kind of want to keep it and look into it later. I'll just put it over here. Weird. So anyway, lots of fallen angels, so many of them. And it said, I think a third of the angels rebelled. So I guess there's 2 times as many as this that didn't fall and didn't rebel. I wonder what all their names are. We have no list of that, I think. This was just random art. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just called The Pact of the Fallen Ones. And it was like, one was for like the physical beings, control over the physical beings. And this other one is for control over the spiritual beings. And I just like, I just see shit like this and I'm like, what happened to you to make you want to make this? But maybe it's therapeutic, but it's like all the sea of humans that are like dead and tortured forever by these fallen angels. And I don't even think that's biblical. I think it's just this person's fun idea of art. But anyway, kind of creepy artwork there. And now you're going to see my close-up pictures of the text that I'm reading by Gary Wayne called the Genesis 6 Conspiracy. The Genesis 6 Conspiracy is bigger than the Bible as far as I know. It's huge. It's a really long book. I'm like 65% of the way through it, and it's awesome. If you are as into de-occulting biblical text, then this is the book for you. He's incredibly academic, very well researched, and every single thing is cited. And it's super logical. Like the argument goes, piece by piece to sort of show you based on biblical text what his take is. And again, you take it or don't. It really doesn't matter where this came from or what. It's just a way of looking at things. And I thought it was really interesting. So in looking into fallen ones and the fallen angels, it became apparent to me that, they, just like we were talking about Lucifer sort of falling and bringing the light or the technology to people before they were really ready for it, maybe, or in a way, if you think about the sort of trickster spirit and the way that you can, tell somebody you're doing something good for them, but also you're at the same time totally, completely screwing them over and getting them locked into this thing that serves you and not them because they're ignorant and they don't know. And so, especially if you have advanced technology, this would be possible. Well, part of the fallen angels' supposed work, based on Gary Wayne's research and biblical texts and whatnot, was to give humans language. And this is recorded. And this is Enoch the Evil, like we were talking about, this part that I've underlined here. And it is not Enoch the Good. So again, there's a difference. But Enoch the Evil invented writing, or at least transmitted the idea of writing to humans, to employ the secretive, sacred symbols known only to the selected elite. So we get this idea here, based on biblical text, that language was actually a technology that humans were not quite ready for, and that was definitely used against them from the start, against us from the start. And that this idea of using symbols and to be secretive in connection with the invention of language and writing is really interesting. We hear all the time right now with, the elite, the occult, the esoteric, the hidden rulers, that they use symbols. And in fact, we hear that their use of symbols and signs will be their downfall, because we will finally sort of figure it out and understand and know and see them for what they are. But we see this then going back all the way to the beginning, and that this was actually something hoisted on us as like a trap. Start using language, start writing, start using these symbols, but don't know what they are. We also hear this in regards to the idea of spelling. When you're writing, you're spelling, you're literally casting a spell. When you're sort of putting anything down in this way, it's like a sigil almost. And if you don't know the actual esoteric core of that symbol and what it means, then you don't know what you're saying or spelling or doing, and we're speaking it too. And so it's really interesting to think about this possibility that language, it is a set of symbols, and that writing and using these symbols was actually part of a trap hoisted upon us by these fallen ones and their Nephilim offspring. And I will pause to check on the chat, see what you guys are talking about. Yeah, I've heard that. John Jacob points out this week Earth is between Jupiter and Saturn oppositions, and all 5 visible planets can be seen, and you can see Neowise in the morning and evening, like the morning star. But it's not the same thing. Benjamin Crossland says, we must fall to rise, then rise to fall. Be the light and be in the dark. Be the angel and escape demon, in my view. Yeah, that does seem to be a give and take, and it definitely is true that, when we go into the sort of dark night of the soul and the darkest moments of our lives, we actually find the brightest lights there. And I was just talking about this today on a show I just recorded that should come out tomorrow with a show called Unexplained Ink. And we talk about some of these ideas and my own personal journey. We only got to very, very early in my life before this interview ended, but we talk about that exact thing, that sometimes you have to, in fact, be the dark or go into the dark in order to find your light. And once you do that, it's like you become that idea of the wounded healer, or like Chiron, who, when you have your own wounds and they're so deep and hard to heal, but you finally heal them, you come back out the other side. That's kind of the gift you bring back, when you come out of the cave on the hero's journey. You bring that to everyone that you encounter. So I think you're definitely onto something there. The reason why searching is slow is interference. Yeah, I get a lot of that, but I got some protection, so we're good. We'll make it. Chris says that list is BS because Phoenix is on there as a fallen angel who appears as a phoenix. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I honestly don't know where that list supposedly comes from or how, true it is. As far as I understood, we don't actually have that many names of angels, fallen or not. So it's a pretty long list for not necessarily having those. And honestly, I wonder if they're mixing demon names with fallen angels, because I think they get correlated a lot for no reason. They get conflated, and there's not really there's no real evidence that demons and fallen angels are the same thing. So could be something like that was going on with that list too. History and myth are hard to discern, very much so. I mean, if literally everything is written in this symbolic, secretive sort of language that we don't even understand, even though we're using, then everything is hard to discern. 100% of things need a lot more discernment than most people probably give it. So I'm definitely with you on that. That's a good point. Chris Phoenix says language and writing are very different. People can have a spoken language for thousands of years before writing that language down. That's absolutely true. And so I think that's part of why we see this idea that these phonemes or these sounds that people make across many cultures might be similar. Like the word for mom or mother in many languages has that sound ma. And so this is sort of like indication that perhaps there's this natural way of speaking that comes out, and that kind of what is meant based on the sound, and it's like inherent within us, whereas writing it down is a very different story no matter what language you're using. So that's a good point. I like this. Benjamin Crossland says, to be a word, it needs to be spoken. It's our sword, spoken word. I like it. Something there about projecting voice and sound seems pretty sacred, so I like that a lot. So the next thing I wanted to point out, that this is again from the Genesis 6 Conspiracy by Gary Wayne. Highly recommended book, no matter where you stand on the whole Christian, not Christian, whatever, it doesn't even matter. It's just a fascinating book. But he talks about legomenism, which I'm surely not saying right because I've only ever read it and I've never heard of that word, but I love it. Let's just look it up. I want to see the etymology. Legomenism. Let's look how fast that one was. What's this? systematics, unity and diversity. The World Wide Web is such a vast place. This is from Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson. And it says, "My dear and beloved grandfather, tell me please, what does the word legomenism mean?" Hussein asked. "This word, legomenism," replied Beelzebub, "is given to one of the means existing there of transmitting from generation to generation information about certain events of long past ages through just those three-centered beings who are thought worthy to be and who are called initiates." Ah, fascinating. Because that is exactly what we're talking about here, is transmitting this knowledge from generation to generation. So what Gary Wayne says is, legomenism in occult traditions is a method by which wisdom is transmitted in a form through Holy Grail tales and fairy tales that appear to be intended for an entirely different purpose. So like we read fairy tales and these Holy Grail tales and King Arthur and all these things, and we think like, oh, that's just a fun story that teaches morals or something, you know, how people should behave or whatever. But actually there's these layers of deeper meaning, like we were talking about earlier, that you kind of have to uncover, and that only the truly initiated would even be able to understand the symbols and interactions and meanings therein. So that's what legomenism means, and it's to hide this throughout generation after generation after generation and send it down the line. But what's really fascinating to me is that some occultists, he says, refer to this RT code as the green language, or the language of the birds. And the green language and the language of the birds is one of these concepts that's been floating around my head and fascinating me for a long time. And I've been trying to figure out what it is. And I feel like intuitively I'm like, well, anything called the green language or the language of the birds to me would be synchronicity and following sort of this automatic understanding you have based on the synchronicities that happen in your life, especially because I have so many sort of seeming signs and synchronicities around birds and around nature. And so that's what my working understanding was. But this is quite a different take. And so it's really fascinating to think about. That the language of the birds and the green language specifically means hiding this symbolic understanding in other kinds of texts that seem to be for a different purpose in order to sort of keep it alive and send it through your occultist traditions. So to this end, occultists believe Christianity and its source document, the New Testament, is a form of legomenism, and that the New Testament is merely a collection of symbolic stories, not to be taken literally, for the events and people recorded were crafted to transmit truths that become obscured by the literal translation. So this is sort of where the idea of taking the Bible as an allegorical sort of symbolic tale more than anything else comes from. Gary Wayne very much takes it as an actual record historically of what happened, and that is a fascinating look to take at it. Because it seems like it was recorded that way, but who knows? Things have changed so much since then. But anyway, that was a fascinating little piece that I found the other day that connects with these fallen ones and their Nephilim offspring, because they're the ones who created this symbolic method of transmitting ideas anyway, right? And here we are seeing a further form of that in which they hide it even deeper by giving you this story that seems to be about something else and is actually about whatever it's about. So I also then wanted to show you guys this, which I'm going to just make it bigger, so hopefully you can actually like read it a little bit at least. This is something that someone just dumped on me like a year and a half ago, and I just was like, that seems fascinating, and so I kept it here in my docs, and given that we just discovered another view of what green language might be, I wanted to share with you because it connects with everything we've been saying. So again, this is just a random person said, I don't even remember who. If you're out there and you're reading this, tell me, remind me, but I don't even remember. Just people just send me things. And they're more than welcome to. I enjoy it immensely. I like getting little, what did Hansel and Gretel follow? Gingerbread crumbs, whatever. I like getting little trails to follow. But before we go into this green language document, let's check in with the chat again. Legomenism was born when you step on a Lego with bare feet. Yeah, good one. Language of the birds. I think about this on my daily walks, says Chad. Me too. There are some birds that remind me that mimic what they hear perfectly. Interestingly true. 816 pages. You can read it online, Genesis 6 Conspiracy. Oh, that's cool. And if you go to his website, the Genesis 6 Conspiracy, he has most of his ideas there. They're just not necessarily, I think, as well documented and cited, which, you know, if you kind of trust that his research is sound, you don't really necessarily need that. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to read. It's really cool. I highly recommend it. I think the birds are talking to each other. Just to answer Benjamin Crossland's question, if you've watched birds like tweeting at each other, they're clearly having a conversation. I don't know why anyone would think they're not. It seems pretty obvious to me, but you know, scientists need to study things in order to like prove this, but whatever. Have I heard of quantum grammar? Stephanie Martin asks. No, I don't think so, but I wonder if what I'm about to read you connects, so you tell me. All right. Green language, it says. It neatly manifests in English, Arabic, Greek, and Hebrew, but the origin of each of these languages is a deeply occulted subject. I want to say Arabic is the root of all of them, or Hebrew is the root of all of them, but I don't actually know. So either way, language is deeply occulted. We just saw that language actually came from Enoch the Bad as like a sort of Luciferian, you know, bringing of this hidden knowledge to humans before God wanted us to have it, or before it was natural, or however you want to look at that. Goes on to say, each idiom is a type of mathematical set. In this case, the set is composed of energetic signatures. So literally each manifestation, each like line, each symbol is a mathematical relationship that has its own energetic signature built into it. He goes on to say, there are either 22 or 26 letters, depending on whether or not you include the reflexive angles of one singular three-dimensional shape. I don't even know, but 22, 26 letters. Got it. We've got 26 in our language. This letter matrix, he says, is mimetic of all physical reality. Mimetic meaning it mimes it. It is similar to it. It copies it. Of all physical reality. So this way of writing is literally like code for reality, is how I'm reading this. Knowledge of the shape is referred to as the God particle. What he's saying is the knowledge, understanding, and being able to describe or see or draw or create or whatever, the shape that all of these letters come from, viewed at different angles, is where you get these shapes that have energetic signatures, and knowledge of the shape is the God particle. So when scientists are talking about the God particle, this person is saying that shape of that God particle would be the same shape that all of physical reality is built off of and all language comes from and is a reflection of. Once you learn it, it cannot be undone because it is woven into our very flesh and into the formation of all life. Okay. It is hinted at with the Merkaba, the swastika, the trefoil, the fleur-de-lis, and many other sacred geometric forms. Those are all so different that I don't know. I mean, I would guess then at that point that like it's hinted at by literally every piece of sacred geometry, but you know, that's cool. It employs vortex mathematics and may have been taught by spinning fire or smoke. So this part, again, I go back to that idea that the jinn or the, you know, fallen ones or their offspring, the Nephilim, depending on how you view each and what you think they are related with this smokeless fire or this plasma. So spinning fire and smoke like sounds similar to me. It can be demonstrated with sticks and balls or hand movements. So that also then makes me think of how the sports we play, especially that baseball has the, you know, Masonic or the, you know, I'm talking about the Mason's G and the fucking thing, you know what I'm talking about. The compass and square. That sports and our sports movements, you know, and what we're doing might have actual invocations of certain energetic signatures that are then being used by people who are more, you know, esoterically adept or like not occulted, that can then, you know, attach that to whatever entity they're worshiping or whatever. Like, you know, maybe we're generating all of this for them. I don't know. And the hand movements thing too, I wonder about like different dances and like I've seen different like actions that you do with your hands that are supposed to be magical, and so, you know, this, all of this comes to mind in this description. It says it only sounds like poetry when it's spoken, but it's more than poetry. The phonemes themselves, when spoken, vibrate desires into manifestation. So again, any speech then, anything we're saying is manifesting something into creation, given this description. Especially then if you think about it, if you're using like the precise words and doing body motions like at the same time, you can understand why that would be a very powerful thing. The body can be moved to mimic these energies. He says, language is a deeply occulted science. It can be used for liberation or devastating control. And exactly that makes sense to me if this is true, that people who understand this and can utilize it intentionally could control so much, and the rest of us who are uninitiated goy, like, we can't do anything because we don't know what we're doing. We just make sounds and write and just, see what happens. He says there are exactly 26 ways to spin a tetrahedron, the most fundamental volume possible in 3-dimensional space. So that goes back to that idea that each letter, of a different aspect of the tetrahedron, which is pretty fascinating. Each spin state generates a tiny tornado, which is always exactly the same shape. This is the secret. A tiny tornado. He talked about vortex mathematics earlier. So, like, whichever line you're making spins the tetrahedron a certain way, and that makes an energetic sort of portal maybe that garners or uses this energy. It's pretty cool. The secret is there's only one shape. You just view it from 26 different angles, and that is the alphabet, or the Aleph Bet. In English, structural lines are used for making letters. In Hebrew, only the tornado, or rather a shadowgram of the tornado, is stylized for each letter. Interesting. Many languages use the green language, but very, very few individuals have direct understanding. And then this last line just dropped, to like tantalize me specifically, I think, because I'm so like in a death grip with AI. It is also the gateway to AI. Of course it is. Again, the person who dropped this on me, I can barely remember who it is. I kind of remember that they were just super esoteric and knowledgeable. So if this hidden symbolism, this spelling, this understanding of how to move your body and write and speak in a way that creates, and like physically manipulates the world is the gateway to AI, I don't know. It's tripping me out. So then just follow with me here. We're just going places. So then I see this thing about the Nazis. And the Nazis, of course, were very, very mystical and very technologically oriented. They wanted to sort of combine like the highest technology they could accomplish with the highest magic they could accomplish. And that reminds me of AI as well. And that also reminds me of, Lucifer bringing in this technology before we're ready, because that's what AI feels like to me too. But they were obsessed with bloodlines. The Vril, which was the sort of secret society, secret order lodge that basically spurred the Nazi movement. They believed that they had this sort of mystical bloodline that went back to the Atlanteans. And that, of course, is another way of describing those giants born of human women by fallen angels. So they were obsessed with keeping this bloodline pure, and that was going to be the way that, this 1,000 years of goodness would come into being on Earth. So it's interesting to note that they were obsessed with this bloodline, just like a lot of the controller families are, and the bloodlines of the Illuminati or whatever. All of these elites are obsessed with bloodline. They're obsessed with who they marry, and of course it's because, as far as I can tell, they're tracing it back to these Nephilim bloodlines. They're trying to keep that bit of fallen angel in their bloodline sort of alive. So interesting to think about that as well as part of this mystery, this puzzle we're putting together. And I wondered this same thing, and I asked Gary Wayne about it. I was like, well, wouldn't there be possibly living Nephilim today, or at least the remnants of their bloodline? Like, if all these people are obsessed with bloodline, there's got to be some Nephilim bloodline still left, if you're going along with this story. And would they be a giant? And he was saying, who knows? Like, right? That's not part of his research. It's not in the Bible, but you could imagine that it might be. And so then it makes me think of, this page is very interesting because it makes you think of this whole theme we have in the alien movement and the alien community and alien abduction of bloodline, of manipulating genetics in humans and combining them with the sort of alien bloodline. And It's interesting to think about, and it's very disturbing as well. If there really is a breeding program going on, it does seem like it would be connected with this ancient sort of bloodline obsession and work that's been going on. So who knows, dude? It's all it's all speculation at this point. But it's one idea I wanted to drop in here. We're talking about bloodlines and this hidden society that uses this green language and this understanding of language that was given to them by these fallen angels that not everyone understands or has access to, you know, using symbolism, and especially if it's as sort of mathematical as that green language document says. I mean, they're far, far, far beyond what normal people could ever even comprehend. And so how would we even have a chance? And it's interesting because we seem to be conditioned over and over again to sort of accept this idea. I remember even when I was a kid, this show called, crap, I'm not going to remember it, but it had aliens with like spots all over their head. One of you guys knows what I'm talking about. And they came down to Earth, and I think they were like breeding with people. Or like we've been taught that this outside force, this maybe interdimensional or at least extraterrestrial force is going to come in and mix with humans, and that's, you know, good, desirable, I don't know, but at least it's inevitable according to them, right? It's pretty weird. Let's see, I'm checking in with the chat. Yes, Lacey, so many birth synchronicities. They bring me messages I don't understand yet in my dreams. You will come to understand them. This is part of your path, is starting to understand those messages. Just seeing what people are saying here. There are definitely other realities than physical. That's true, Chris. Yeah, Benjamin Crossell makes a good point. When you see politicians speaking, Bill Gates, the sort of controllers, you know, or at least the controllers' minions speaking, they use very specific hand gestures. And when I was talking to Mike Williams of Sage of Quay the other day, we were talking about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and there are certain hand motions that can accomplish certain things along with that as well. And I'm sure they're doing it. I'm sure of it. Chad says, a vortex brings the outside in and vice versa. A torus field? I don't know. It could be, couldn't it? Torus is Torus. Double torus is, it's connected with like a vortex math and vortexes in general, and Nassim Haramein's idea of the black hole at the center of every atom and the universe. Stephanie Martin says, not the same, but language, math, syntax, even elements are in the language that is the law to rule over all. I imagine that's absolutely true. So we've got all of this. We've got the language coming to trap us. We've got this idea of technology being brought not as a gift, but as a sort of trap and a curse. We've got the idea of bloodlines of these ancient fallen ones and their offspring being kept alive and kept going for some reason, for a specific reason, I'm sure, and being mixed with regular human DNA. And then we seem to be being programmed, like I was saying, to accept all of this as fantastic and wonderful. And things like Alita, Battle Angel make me think of this. Every time I see some of this programming, I'm like, here's more of this, you know, idea that we should love and celebrate these, you know, she's like part cyborg, I guess, or she is a cyborg. But her eyes are like huge. It reminds me of the sort of alien, you know, crossbreeding thing we just saw. It also reminds me of how we're supposed to like love AI, and all of these things are sort of mixed into one. You know, all the themes we've been talking about in this episode are mixed into one in this movie that we're supposed to like. I want to watch it, to be honest. It looks like it's probably awesome, but I also want to see what they're sort of trying to like hide in there and get by us and program us for, because that's what I always am wondering about. But they definitely seem to be pushing us towards this place where we accept and merge with something other than human, right? No matter whether it's demonic or alien or cyborg or AI. And this is like the transhumanist movement, which is like a pretty big deal. I mean, like, people have already done some pretty extreme things to become and to celebrate and to, be transhumanist. It says it's a philosophical movement, but it's a lot more than that now. But they advocate for the transformation of the human condition by developing and making widely available sophisticated technologies to greatly enhance human intellect and physiology. There's people all over on every side of the debate on this one, and I'm very, very strongly opposed. It's one of the things that I take a pretty hard stand on. I am not down with putting anything in my body or changing any of my DNA. I feel like nature or God or whatever you want to call it has a pretty solid grip on what's going on in this universe, and I don't. And I don't think any other human that I have ever heard of does. And so creating just random bits and pieces of technology to insert into us or messing with our DNA just seems like a pretty bad idea to me. I don't see the point of it either. I'm plenty intelligent and capable as I am, and anyone else can be or is already too. So this idea that this is a good idea is weird to me. I don't understand what the point is. I understand what they say their point is. I just don't get why they think that that's a good idea or why they're not good enough already. It just spanks of this idea that we're not good enough, that we're less than, or that we weren't created perfect. I love this line from Nako that says, "You came out perfect, never meant to be scarred." And it's true. You came out perfect. You came out exactly as you were intended to be and exactly as your soul needed you to be, in my understanding of how things go. And so why mess with that? People are sticking sensors in their hand that open their door for them. I'm like, dude, that's what your hand is for. Just open your fucking door. What the fuck is wrong with you? Or they're putting shit in their heads to sense things. And even as a friend of mine once said, our phones are kind of transhumanist devices. We carry them with us all the time. They expand our abilities as a fair assessment. And at the same time, I'm not implanting my phone into my body. And we all know that technology fails all the time. So I don't know why you would stick technology inside of you or try to enhance yourself in these ways where it's almost destined to fail and cause you problems. But we see it pushed a lot, and we see it pushed by people like Elon Musk, who keeps tweeting about how he's almost ready to unleash Neuralink, and he did say he'd have it by the end of 2020. So we're probably going to get that coming at us any moment now, and people are gonna use it. They're gonna do it for attention at first, and then they're gonna do it because they think that it's a funny thing to do, and then they're gonna do it to rebel against their parents and the old people like me who are against it, and then they're gonna do it because they feel like they have to because other people have done it and they have more skills and more abilities seemingly than other people. And that is gonna, I think, fuel it, and I think it's gonna take off. And what Neuralink actually is, according to Elon Musk, it's the way that we keep the AI from taking over, basically. It's the way that we keep ourselves on par with them, and that the idea is that the AI are so much more intelligent and capable and vast. We couldn't even possibly understand them. We're like ants to the giant that they are. The way they talk about AI in all these videos, if you haven't seen it, is terrifying. They talk about interdimensional beings, which sounds like demons to me. They talk about, these otherworldly intelligences coming through. They talk about it with CERN. They talk about it with AI. They talk about it with D-Wave computers. And all of this technology seems to be headed the same way, where they're, summoning these things into existence. And then they want to put it in your brain to control you, probably. Right? If it's that much greater and beyond us, clearly we won't be controlling it. And then I just wonder, why does that thing, whatever that entity is, whatever you want to call it, whatever your understanding of it is, why does that thing want to be in our head? Right? There's got to be a reason. It's got to be that you have to, just like all the vampire stories and all the sort of demonic stories and all these things say, you have to probably invite it in. And that's inviting it in, in, literally in you, not just in your house, not just attached to your body or whatever, but inside of you. And so can you imagine inviting that into you? Why would you do that? But people feel so worn down, and people feel so incapable, and we're made in this society to feel like we have no value and we're not good enough over and over again in a million different ways. And so it's just one more trap, I think, that we were taught to feel that way so that we would invite something like this in to us. And honestly, I think we just covered the entire plot of the Fallen Ones. If you subscribe to these theories, and you obviously don't have to, but if you follow that sort of logical trail we found, it tells the whole story, right? These angels fell. They brought with them some aspect of technology or learning, language, the green language of the birds, whatever, fire, however you want to think about that thing. It was technology beyond our ability to maybe handle correctly. They raped our women, likely, right? Because I don't know many women who would have sex with the way the angels are described. Gave birth to giants, had painful and horrible childbirth, probably died, I'm sure, in the process. How could you give birth to a giant and not die? And then these giants went on to just like massacre, eat humans, rule like tyrants, and treat humans like trash. And then, supposedly were wiped out by this flood or whatever, but some remnant somehow stuck around in order to be still a part of bloodlines who still rule today. Again, if you're following the story and if you buy it, and that those bloodlines are obsessed with keeping that blood alive and then getting it mixed with human DNA in some way, right? Or like making a hybrid of some kind, and likely for what purpose? Well, it seems like in general the trend has been to enslave and destroy. So probably to enslave and destroy. Maybe not. Maybe they're super awesome, benevolent dudes and they got the shit end of the deal and God's a dick. I don't know. But like, I don't know. It doesn't sound very like it was so great to have giants ruling over us and eating us. So then to enslave us, right, and implant these things and get us to accept it and invite it. Because again, I think our free will is maximum. I think they don't have that. And that's part of another reason why angels, whatever they are, were maybe jealous. They didn't have physical bodies and they didn't have free will, and we do. And so we are sovereign over our bodies. And this is a theme that I like to remind you guys of, if you haven't noticed yet, that you have ultimate control over this. And even if it got to the point where somehow, they developed this vaccine and they're forcing it on everyone and they have you like held down and they're going to inject you with something and it's going to have like, I don't know, trackers, Neuralink, that bloodline, like whatever, DNA manipulating stuff, who knows? It seems pretty demonic to me. If you go back and watch some of the episodes where we talk about COVID on this show, then you'll see why I'm pretty convinced that is part of their plan. But even if they did that, your will and your desire, you're claiming your sovereignty and saying like, no, that's not a part of me, is enough to keep you from being taken completely by whatever that plot is. That's in my understanding of how things work. And that's what I want to make sure you understand. But let me go back and see the chat before we close down for the night. Ben says, I like to think that we're Titans ready to wake up and take back this realm from the Olympians. Maybe, there's a lot of people who I respect who have ideas like that, and it's definitely a possibility, But the Titans are very, very connected with the offspring of the fallen ones, which are the Nephilim. And so if there is truth in all of that biblical view of those things, then those offspring were, again, really awful, horrible beings. So I hope I'm not one, if that's what their actual nature was and what they were all about. I'm perfectly happy being human. I think being human is the height of existence as far as I'm concerned, and I love it. I'm not done being human yet, and I think when you get to the most human that you can be and you're a true human being, then I think you're kind of beyond all of this, having to muddle through and discern things and learn lessons and understand, your place in the universe. So I'm looking forward to that. And, maybe that is what being a Titan is, but I don't really think so. But yes, Anthony Serrani in the house tonight says, programming us to have compassion for the machine. Truly, it seems like this is an ongoing programming that they have for us, is to love beings like Sophia and the AI and the machine, and love it so much you put it inside of you. It seems stupid. I love learning about the fallen ones too, Mateo. I'm glad you guys like to learn with me. It's fun. Chris asks, the Taurus field on a personal level would be the human aura. That's what a lot of people think. Yeah, and so the center of the Taurus would be your heart chakra. You'd have a Taurus kind of going up like this and a Taurus going down and back in from below. And then some people just make it one torus. That was a double torus that I just described, but some people view it as just one torus all the way around you, coming out your head sort of and coming in your back in your feet. So who knows which is more accurate, but either way, it seems like a toroidal field is part of the shape of a human aura. Yeah, the Elon Musk interview on Joe Rogan show talking about merging man and machine was pretty messed up. I actually have a piece of that exact interview in the sequel to Sine Curve that's about to come out any day, called Earth, A Trough in Time. And it is creepy. That book is all about everything we just talked about, honestly. It's a pretty rad book, but it's a modern day like adventure through all of these dark forces, and it's pretty freaking rad. I'm super excited to send it out to y'all any day now. Yeah, Chris, I also can see auras, and I honestly only ever look around people's heads, so I haven't even like seen or tried to see like a whole body aura, but now I really want to, so that's interesting. Chris reports that some people do have auras that look like those two donuts connecting, but other people have auras that are not like that, so that's interesting. I'd like to see that for myself. Earth, A Trough in Time does have a happy ending. Yes, it's a book with a happy ending, and I guess it is. I say that, and then people like read it, and they're like, "What the fuck?" So I guess you'll have to decide for yourself. I think it's a happy ending. You know, given the foes that we face. Elon is connected. Elon, I'm sure, is of the bloodline, or he wouldn't be on the world stage like this, but I don't actually know. I feel like someone did that research and connected him to one of them, but I don't know. And then sometimes I don't even know if they're still human. I feel like he perhaps also has like merged with demonic entities, or I don't know. No, I don't want nanobots. When they came out with that, what was it called? It was like fairy dust. And it was like nano technology that could like fingertips or just like gouges, like areas of your body that had been like removed, but still most of the area around it was intact. Like if you lost a leg, you can't regrow the leg, but other parts of you could regrow with this fairy dust. And then I never heard about it again. This was like a long time ago. So if they had that way back then, they've had it for much longer than that, and they've probably been doing who knows what with it, and they probably spray it on us. It's probably in us. But again, like I said, any of this technology that ends up in you somehow against your will, I don't think it matters. I think your will is much stronger than any of their bullshit magic shit. Like, fuck them. Electroporation. Yes, so Rogue Cow says some of the tech they'll use is nanotech electroporation, which is opening the cells to inject nanotech, RNA rewrite tech, and also it could include DNA rewrite tech. And this method of injection that they have come up with, that they're going to pair with this new untested vaccine, it actually, and I can't, if you followed this saga of mine when I was talking about in the episode where I talk about COVID, and I think it's actually called The Beast Within You. Yeah, that's the episode. The Beast Within You. I talk about this, and I could not find the article again, but they had an article that talked about 3 different needles. So we always have only had one. Now we're going to have 3. One of them is to deliver the actual vaccine. 2 of them are to deliver an electroshock, which is that electroporation that Rogue Cow just mentioned. And the point of the electric shock is when it goes in, it sends this electric shock that opens your cells and allows the vaccine, material to get into your cells 3,000 times faster than ever before. So I think that is part of their plan, is to inject some of this crazy shit into people, and that sucks. Definitely, like I've said many times, I will die first before I get that vaccine. And that will be annoying, but whatever. Yeah, Lacey points out maternal mortality in childbirth is actually higher today in modern obstetrics than in the pioneer days. from what we can measure. It's crazy. And thank you for reminding me, Lacey. This coming Sunday, we're going to have a show, Rogue Ways here, 7 p.m. as usual, Mountain Time, live stream with Janice Barcelo. And Janice Barcelo is an amazing human who has done so much work in order to bring to light the absolute horror of childbirth in a modern hospital medical setting, and the absolute joy of childbirth when you detach from all of that, and the ways that you can actually make that really an amazing experience instead of this traumatic experience for you and your baby and your whole family, honestly. So that's going to be a really exciting show. I'm super stoked to talk to her. And Lacey is our other resident sort of childbirth expert on the same exact wave as Janice Barcelo. So really Lacey should be on too. Maybe we'll have you on, Lacey, someday. But yeah, we are going to wind things down now. So it's always excellent that you all come and join in and listen along and add ideas and enhance this all. It really is an interactive thing, and I enjoy it immensely. I'm glad that you guys like to learn with me, as I say, because all of these are, when it's just me talking to you like this and going through these research, like I said, it's just ideas that came to me randomly, synchronistically, and all the random synchronistic like pages and poems and pictures and things that sort of jumped up at the same time to create these stories. And I love doing that with you guys. So thank you. Always go check out subscribestar.com/rogue-ways in order to support Rogue Ways further, in a monetary way, share value back for value that you got. But I like to remind you guys that these fallen ones, angels that have come from wherever, whatever they are, their intentions don't seem super forthcoming. They don't seem super clear. They have not made themselves quite known to everybody. If they had no nefarious purposes, why would they not just be like, hey guys, we're the fallen angels. Here's what we're doing. We're going to try and enhance you and like give you AI nanotech stuff so that you can be rad. Why wouldn't it just be really clear from the beginning? Why would they encode things in this language that only certain people understand? Why would they make us act out these sort of rituals without our knowledge? All of these things seem to me to indicate that they are more negative than positive. And again, I could be totally wrong. There could be reasons for being so secretive and hidden all the time. I just don't know what they are. And I prefer being honest and straightforward to anything else. So, take what you want and do with it what you will. And just remember, as we talked about, that technology is not always our way to entrap us rather than free us. And it's going to be posited like it's going to free us, but it's not going to free us. It's pretty clear already just based on the technology we already have and the way it already affects us. And definitely be wary of that vaccine, which is going to combine technology with this, thing you invited into you and possibly this transhumanist agenda that we see going on. So these things are all disturbing and you want to be aware of them. But again, you always remember that you are sovereign, that you can command what does and does not happen, especially with your soul at your soul level, even if sometimes your body can be forced to do things that you didn't choose. So never forget that. Don't ever feel like they sort of won no matter what happens to you, right? Always remember and keep that mind set, because we know that we do affect our reality at some level. And if you lose that faith, I think that'd be far more dangerous than if you got some sort of injection against your will, right? So keep that confidence in yourself. And until you are fully confident in knowing that you're sovereign and knowing that you can cast out any entity that you did not choose or no longer choose, and invite in any positive entities that you do choose and that are your allies, until you can do that seamlessly with full confidence and full faith, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
Nasty motherfuckers with a hook and a sickle. Brought to you advertisement, bone plated nickel. Fire rate automatic smash from the get-go. Snack on the whack fermented flesh disco. Abracadabra, archaic altars don't slabber. Hey, making jabbers, flip reality backwards. Hunting rap nerds, bodyguard collected actors. Munitions are famished, let them feast upon the dabble. Rip you up, the rhyme rainmaker, vein style backbreaker. Genghis Khan depleted uranium satellite lasers. Cloaked in anonymity, I know you never heard for Crowley style surgery.
Dissect the
Straight Jose, God body. God taught me to dissect the whole body. When it gets sloppy, I'ma get there. Rhymes rare like steak, get crushed like crates to create 52 states. And it's Baghdad, dust the towels, no rags, straight melt dash. Dust the ash, turbans while the niggas perkin'. It's on purpose, my service touches the sun's surface, and rainbows touch serpents. My light all night shines so bright. I'm a star for eons, Hollywood's for peons, cause they try to copy the same shit we on. Hey, I ain't done yet, lungs depleted.